At age 12, a sudden heart attack claimed my father, leaving a void that transformed our home. He was a simple man, hardworking, always there. He taught me to fix things, took me to flea markets, and ensured I had my own tools, even if I didn't know their purpose. After his passing, an unsettling shift occurred within our household. My mother, even before Dad's death, had always seemed distant. She'd miss school functions and forget my birthdays unless prompted by him. Dad, engrossed in his work, never truly grasped her indifferent treatment of me at home. But with his death, I felt like the sole mourner. Mom, conversely, showed no genuine sorrow. She'd perform elaborate displays of grief for relatives during family gatherings, but at home, I saw through the charade. Her demeanor towards me worsened considerably. Initially, it was minor neglects, forgotten lunches, missed parent-teacher conferences, ignored calls. But it escalated swiftly. Any noise I made was deemed disrespectful. Silence was interpreted as defiance. She'd erupt in anger over trivialities, like my manner of walking or leaving a hallway light on too long. Once, after I used the last slice of bread, she froze me out for 2 days. One morning, running 5 minutes late, she accidentally spilled hot coffee on my arm. She'd hide my assignments, then berate me for being irresponsible. My father's gifts she'd discard as clutter. She'd delete my friends' messages from the landline, then claim no one called. She even locked the fridge when she left for work to prevent me from wasting food. If I fell ill, she'd accuse me of feigning it, once sending me to school with a 102-degree fever. The verbal assaults intensified, her words spitting venom about my worthless father. She resorted to physical violence too, always in places easily concealed. My ribs, my back, the crown of my head. She favored the back of a hairbrush, believing it taught better lessons than her hand. Yet, in front of family, she was a paragon of motherhood, baking holiday cookies, crafting lengthy Facebook tributes to solo parenting, and hugging me with excessive tightness when observed. The mere thought of speaking out was met with a chilling glare, the kind that promised dire consequences with a smile. So, I remained silent. No one suspected a thing. Dad had established a college fund, a simple savings account in my name. He'd once told me, "That's for your college. Not a penny before 18, no matter what." I hadn't fully comprehended its significance then, but I was thankful. Then, at 13, after enduring relentless abuse, Mom's behavior abruptly shifted. She became overly solicitous, inquiring about my preferred snacks, permitting movies I usually couldn't watch, even making pancakes one Saturday. I wondered if guilt gnawed at her. Honestly, I felt a flicker of hope, yearning for my mother's affection. Though I knew better than to relax my guard, a part of me wished she was turning a corner, that perhaps I'd exaggerated the harshness. Then, one day, she suggested a short trip, just the two of us. "We need time together," she said, "to reconnect." She packed a bag for me, instructing me to leave my phone behind to avoid distractions. I didn't resist, just relieved she wasn't screaming. We drove for hours, beyond town limits, onto a dusty back road, past dilapidated gas stations and desolate fields. I asked our destination repeatedly, but she only replied, "Somewhere quiet." We pulled into a gas station that appeared untouched since the 1980s. She told me to stretch my legs. The instant I shut the door, she hit the gas. Without a word, without a glance back, she drove off. I stood there, stunned, for a full minute, convinced it was a prank, that she'd circle back or grab food. But 5 minutes turned into 10, and then the sun began to set. I was 13, in the middle of nowhere, with a single bag, no money, no ID, no phone, just the diminishing sound of tires on gravel and the chilling realization that this was no mistake. She wasn't returning. I couldn't process it. I clung to explanations. A car accident, a test. The truth dawned hours later. She'd orchestrated it, all the feigned kindness, the trip, the remote drop-off. She wanted me gone, ensuring my inability to return. That first night, the cold was all-consuming. I sat on the curb trying to grasp what had just transpired, still clinging to the idea of a twisted parenting test. I remember clutching myself, stifling tears. Despite her cruelty, I never imagined this depth of abandonment. No one came, no one offered help. The gas station clerk merely peered through the window and locked the door. What a compassionate soul. I walked, aimlessly, following the road until I reached a small diner off the highway, its menu seemingly unchanged since the 1970s. I asked if they were hiring, likely looking like a stray. The woman at the counter simply asked, "Got papers?" "No," I replied. "Then no job," she stated. This became a recurring theme in my life. The first week was pure survival. I slept under an overpass the second night, quickly learning that other homeless individuals weren't exactly welcoming to kids. A man with a shopping cart screaming about territory chased me off. I ended up sleeping in shifts, 20 minutes awake, 40 asleep, all night long. Over the next few weeks, I grasped the essentials. Construction sites sometimes hired me to sweep or haul if I wasn't a nuisance. One guy paid me $10 nightly to hose down his tools, asking no questions, only grunting directions. I respected that. Sleeping arrangements grew inventive. Church steps, 24-hour laundromats, and a bus depot with a single functional heater in the dead of winter. Pro tip: middle school janitor closets are often unlocked and uninspected until 6 a.m. I learned to wake early and vanish quickly. I once found a still warm, half-wrapped Crunchwrap Supreme in a Taco Bell dumpster. No regrets, it was the best thing I'd eaten in 2 weeks. Some nights, food courts populated my dreams like five-star restaurants. I briefly worked in a junkyard, paid in scrap metal and peculiar odd jobs. Another man hired me to move furniture from foreclosed homes. At one, a weeping family was still inside. He told me, "Don't look at them, just carry the couch." I quit the next day. No school, no address, just constant movement. It's astonishing how long you can remain unnoticed if you keep your head down. No one truly cares about the kid in the hoodie sweeping parking lots. Year 2 was brutal. I went through a phase where I convinced myself Dad was alive, that this was a misunderstanding, and he'd arrive in his battered work truck to take me home. I'd follow men with similar builds for blocks until they turned around. Not my proudest moments. I got caught shoplifting once, just a sandwich and a Gatorade from a gas station. The owner seized my arm, threatening to call the police if he saw me again. I ran 5 miles that day, constantly looking over my shoulder, and avoided that part of town for months. I found a halfway house that allowed me to sleep on the floor if I scrubbed toilets and caused no trouble. A man named Snake Seriously showed me how to cook rice with a hotel iron. Another, Big Fred, revealed which grocery stores discarded expired meat on specific days. Mondays were gold. Around year 3, I stopped thinking about home. I didn't feel missing anymore. I was merely existing. Others had childhood memories. I had survival checklists. I was too drained for anything else, almost completely without hope. Every Wednesday, I'd visit the public library, not to read, but to use their bathroom for a proper wash. I'd lock the door, strip to my boxers, and clean myself with paper towels and hand soap. A janitor once caught me, sighed, and walked away. I think he understood. By year 4, I'd reached a strange acceptance. I built a shelter behind an abandoned warehouse, a discarded mattress, a milk crate for my belongings, and a tarp for rain. Not exactly MTV Cribs, but it was mine. I began to believe this was simply my life now. Then I met Tommy. It was at a greasy diner where I'd landed an under-the-table dishwashing gig. The manager, a burnt-out ex-con, cared only that you showed up. Tommy flipped pancakes and pilfered fries when the boss wasn't looking. After a few weeks, he noticed I never left after my shift, instead lingering in the last booth, feigning sleep until asked to move. One night he asked, "You sleeping here, or are you haunting the place?" I laughed, the first time in a long while. He offered his couch. "Rent's cheap," he joked. "You just gotta act like you don't see the mold." I asked no questions, moving in that night. I couldn't have been more grateful. It wasn't glamorous, a one-bedroom, a bathroom door that wouldn't quite close, a TV with one working speaker, but it was warm and it felt like mine. I paid rent by cleaning and fixing things. Once, the sink burst, and we used duct tape and a prayer to prevent a kitchen flood. That tape held for 6 months. Tommy never really delved into my past, only once remarking, "Everyone's running from something, no need to compare notes." He was in his 20s with a child he never discussed. We were both, in our own ways, phantoms. The couch became my sanctuary. Some nights, I'd lie there, picturing my mother. Did she regret it, or was she living as if I'd never existed? Eventually, I saved enough for a prepaid phone, cheap with a cracked screen, but functional. I created an email using the library to piece things together. Then, out of sheer boredom one night, I logged into Facebook. My old account, made when I was 11, still displayed cringeworthy Minecraft memes and an oversized hoodie in my profile picture. I scrolled, checking on old acquaintances, then I saw her. My cousin Eleanor, smiling, holding a sign at a charity event, surrounded by hometown faces. She looked identical. It felt unreal. I stared at the photo for a full minute, my brain struggling to process it. Then I clicked add friend and sent a message. It's me. I'm alive. She responded within 5 minutes. At first, 3 dots, as if typing, deleting, retyping. I sensed her confusion. Finally, a message. This isn't funny. Who is this? I replied with something only she'd know. My old cat's name and the time we got grounded for microwaving frozen grapes. Yeah, we were idiots. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. She was crying before I even said hello. Eleanor was the closest thing I had to a sibling growing up. She visited every other weekend. Her mom and mine were sisters. She was the kind of kid who remembered birthdays and sent cards. I never expected to hear from her again. She asked my location. I simply said I was safe. She pleaded to meet, offering to come to me, no questions asked. I chose a diner halfway between us, neutral, public, just in case. When she entered, she froze as if seeing a ghost. You look older? Was her first comment. Well, yeah, I replied. Last time you saw me, I had braces and a dumb haircut. She sat across from me, staring for a while. We didn't even order food. I think she'd forgotten how to form words. Eventually, I asked the obvious, what did she tell you? Eleanor looked down, speaking as if reciting a bad script. She said you got into a scholarship program in Germany, some fancy tech school, a huge opportunity, and that your dad always dreamed you'd go abroad. She told us you wanted to stay private, focus, not wanting to talk to anyone. I was stunned. Such elaborate deception. Eleanor continued. She showed us photos of you in front of old buildings, claimed they were from Berlin. You looked a bit off, but we thought you were just tired. She said you hated being bothered, so we didn't ask questions. I asked about the photos' origin. She said she got them through your school's newsletter. She displayed them at every family gathering, bragging about how proud she was, how you were becoming such a fine young man. She even showed fake bank statements, claiming she was sending you money monthly for rent. Of course she did. The woman couldn't just make me vanish. She had to construct an entire resume for me. Eleanor paused, shaking her head. We didn't know, man. We had no reason to doubt her. She cried in front of everyone when she spoke of you, saying it hurt that you didn't call, that you wanted space. She played the part so well. She even talked about visiting you, but said you politely declined because you were too busy. She hadn't just gotten rid of me, she'd rewritten me, transforming me into an imaginary son living abroad, making her look good and causing no trouble. Eleanor looked up, apologizing, saying she should have known something was amiss. I didn't blame her. I would have believed it too. The woman could lie as easily as she breathed. Then she revealed the next piece of information. She's married now, lives in Hillside, married a guy named Doug, runs a landscaping business. She acts like she's always been this strong single mom who sacrificed everything. Shows people her wedding photos like she's some kind of success story. Naturally, she was thriving. She'd washed her hands of me, replacing me with a superior version in her narrative. Eleanor said she'd grown suspicious last year when she asked for my number and my mom evaded the question. That's when she started digging, but found nothing. No school records, no graduation photos, no real paper trail, just random pictures and stories that didn't align. I wanted to believe it. She said, but I couldn't find you anywhere. I sat there, absorbing it all. 5 years abroad, 5 years of silence, explained by fabricated documents and tearful speeches. Meanwhile, I was scrubbing diner floors and sleeping beside a broken radiator. Eleanor reached across the table and gripped my hand. What the hell happened? I gave her the condensed version, the car ride, the gas station, the ensuing years. I omitted the worst part, seating from dumpsters, getting jumped, the night I thought I might die in an alley. Some things you just don't burden others with. We left the diner with a plan. Eleanor said she'd accompany me to speak with her mom, my aunt, to reveal the truth. She'd also help me contact my uncle, the only family member who'd ever questioned my mom's story but was quickly silenced. Before we parted, she promised one thing: We're going to fix this. You're not staying erased. Just like that, I wasn't alone anymore. A week after that diner meeting, I stood outside my uncle's hardware store. It looked exactly as I remembered, though the paint was more faded and the open sign flickered as if giving up. Eleanor had arranged it, telling him someone from his past wanted to talk without revealing who, just that it was important. He emerged, wiping his hands on a rag, looked at me, and froze. He didn't recognize me at first, just stared, familiar but not clicking. Then it hit him, and his face fell. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. "How the hell?" He pulled me into the back office. No small talk, just a long sigh, as if he'd finally received the answer to a years-long question. Uncle Joseph wasn't the emotional type, a retired Navy man, always direct. He poured 2 coffees, sat down, and confessed he'd never truly believed her story. It never made sense. He said how you suddenly left for Europe with no proper goodbye, no airport photos, and 0 contact. She'd made him seem foolish every time he asked, called him paranoid, told the family he was jealous of her son's success, so he backed off. He'd kept his distance since, avoiding gatherings, claiming they felt fake. But here's where it got interesting. He still possessed something no one else did, the original will. Turns out Dad had given Uncle Joseph a sealed copy before he died, just in case something ever happened and he wasn't around to make sure things went the way they should. We opened it on his desk. It was simple. My dad had left me a modest savings account in my name, the house to be transferred to me at 18, and a small life insurance policy with instructions to deposit the money into a college fund. The problem was, my mom never mentioned a will to anyone else. She told the family Dad didn't have one, and everything defaulted to her. She claimed she had to sell the house for bills and drain savings to survive. Uncle Joseph had tried to question it once. She shut him down hard, threatening to cut ties, accusing him of overstepping. He didn't push further, figuring it wasn't worth it, but now he was enraged. He showed me a folder of old financial statements she'd sent him years ago, attempting to justify her spending. All of it was fraudulent. Names of non-existent institutions, sketchy letterheads. He'd saved it all, just in case. Eleanor helped me start compiling everything. Screenshots of the fake emails she sent the family pretending to be me, copies of the study abroad documents she'd shown people. We reverse searched some images, most were stock photos. Bank records proved the college account was emptied 2 months after I vanished. Property records showed she sold the house 6 months later for $80,000 under market value, likely to a friend or a straw buyer. We discovered she didn't even need to forge anything to access most of it. As I was a minor, she, as my legal guardian, had full control. No one questioned her closing accounts or moving money. The only suspicious parts were the rapid disappearance of funds and the fabricated documents she used to explain it to the family. She knew exactly what she was doing. Joseph called in a favor from an old Navy buddy who worked at a law firm. The lawyer came over on a Sunday, meticulously reviewing our evidence for 3 hours, taking notes and asking questions. At the end, he simply nodded and said, "Yeah, we can work with this." He explained that while some of her actions were technically legal, she was my guardian. After all, the combination of abandonment, deception, and misuse of funds specifically designated in a will created a strong case. The fact that she fabricated an entire story about my whereabouts instead of reporting me missing was the clincher. The lawyer asked if I wanted to pursue criminal charges. I considered it. Part of me craved seeing her in handcuffs, her mugshot in the local paper, the whole spectacle. But that meant investigations, interviews, possibly a trial. I'd have to relive everything, piece by piece, in front of strangers. Tell them how I slept in abandoned buildings and stole food to survive while she posted fake updates about my studies abroad. I wasn't ready for that. Didn't know if I ever would be. So we focused on the money, the inheritance, the house funds, what was rightfully mine. By the end of the month, I had a comprehensive folder ready. The authentic will, her cover-up trail, financial records, and a notarized statement from my uncle confirming my dad's instructions. I wasn't going to the police yet. I wanted one more conversation to happen first, with Doug, her new husband. I figured if she lied to him even half as much as she lied to the family, he deserved to know who he married. More importantly, I wanted to be the one to break it to her. So once everything was in place, I told Joseph I needed to talk to Doug. He didn't ask, just said, "I'll drive." Doug ran a landscaping company out of Hillside, a small warehouse office with a fleet of work trucks. Joseph knew the spot. He'd done business with them years back. He described Doug as decent, straightforward, the kind of guy who probably never imagined his wife had a second life. We walked in and asked to speak with him. 15 minutes later, Doug appeared. I introduced myself, handed him the folder, and stated I was his wife's son. He looked confused, then skeptical. I didn't try to explain, just told him to read what was inside and that I wasn't there to waste his time. He took the folder, nodded, and walked off. That was it. No scene. I left the warehouse and didn't look back. On the drive home, after a few minutes of silence, Joseph said, "You did good. Your dad would be proud." I didn't know what to say, just stared out the window as the town passed by. If Dad were still alive, none of this would have happened. 2 days later, the inevitable occurred. I received a Facebook message from my mom. I had no idea how she found my number. The moment her name appeared, I froze. All the terrible memories of her flooded back. She didn't even wait for a greeting. "You lying little bastard," she began, then spewed every insult imaginable, mocked me. Yeah, she never changes. You think you're getting anything from me? You're delusional. I didn't respond, didn't need to. Joseph and I had already filed the lawsuit that morning. At that time, we were suing for recovery of the remaining inheritance plus damages. Everything was documented, her withdrawals, the forged communications, her fake scholarship story. It was all there in black and white. Legally, she'd had access to the money then because I was a minor, but she wasn't supposed to squander it all and lie about my whereabouts. That kind of deception carries weight in court, especially with a will and clear intent. Our lawyer called it strategic financial abuse. It wasn't about emotion, it was about intent and concealment. The documents showed everything. She hadn't just accessed money. She'd built an elaborate false narrative to avert suspicion. The messages continued all night. First threats, then bargaining, then a bizarre attempt at gaslighting where she tried to claim I ran away on my own and she'd been worried sick looking for me, as if I somehow ended up at that specific gas station in the middle of nowhere by myself at 13. By morning, she switched to playing the victim, claiming I was trying to ruin her life, that I didn't understand her hardships, that everything she did was to protect me. I blocked her after that. Doug never called, never messaged, never reappeared. His silence spoke volumes. The lawsuit notice was served 3 days later. Official papers delivered by a court officer to her front door. Eleanor's mom told me she called the family in tears, claiming she was being attacked by her own son, that I was fabricating stories for money, that I'd always been troubled. No one bought it this time. Too much evidence, too many inconsistencies in her story. The family had already seen the will, the bank records, everything. My aunt, her sister, cut her off completely, telling her never to call again. Uncle Joseph contacted their extended family, informing them of the truth. One by one, they all distanced themselves. The house of cards was collapsing. The first lawsuit was for civil inheritance recovery and financial misrepresentation. Pretty standard. Our lawyer filed it based on misuse of estate funds, violation of fiduciary duty as a guardian, and deliberate concealment of a living minor's whereabouts. All backed by the will, bank records, and Joseph's testimony. But then came the second one. Our lawyer added a separate civil suit for child abandonment. Since I was under 18 when she dumped me and she never filed a missing persons report or notified authorities, it met the threshold for civil negligence and emotional harm. It wasn't criminal. Too much time had passed and no DA would prioritize it. But in court, it mattered. It showed intent, planning, and her true character. The cases weren't swift. They dragged out for months. She tried to stall, claimed financial struggles. Her court-appointed attorney attempted to lowball the settlement, but every delay cost her court fees, fines, and increased scrutiny. I had to appear in court twice, once for a deposition where I explained everything, and once for a hearing where the judge wanted to hear directly from me. Both times, I kept it factual. No tears, no dramatic speeches, just what happened, where I went, how I survived, the dates, places, and people who helped me. The judge wasn't overly emotional, just an older man with reading glasses who listened carefully and asked specific questions. But I noticed something when I described that first night at the gas station. He stopped writing and just looked at me for a solid 10 seconds. Later, leaving court, our lawyer said that was a good sign. Judges who've seen it all don't react much, he said. But when they do, it means something clicked. Meanwhile, Doug served her with divorce papers. No mediation, no, let's work through it, just a straightforward, I'm out. He cited financial deceit as the cause, supporting it with documents from our lawsuit. He took the house, her car, and froze joint accounts. His lawyer ensured she left with nothing tied to him. She moved into a cheap, unfurnished rental on the outskirts of town, paying cash. Eleanor's mom, my aunt, kept me updated. She was the only one still taking her calls, and even that was fading fast. Apparently, my mom called crying one night, asking to borrow a few thousand for legal costs. My aunt refused. She lost her social circles too. The church group dropped her. The community volunteer board kicked her out. The same people who used to post Bible verses under her Facebook selfies stopped replying to her messages. Her reputation around town plummeted. People who once invited her to dinner parties suddenly didn't have her number. The book club she bragged about met at a new location without telling her. The PTA committee she chaired sent her a formal letter stating her services were no longer required. She tried to fight back, making posts about being persecuted and how there are two sides to every story. No one engaged. When that failed, she tried playing the victim, posts about being a target of harassment and hints about her mental health struggles. Still nothing. Then she resorted to direct messages to family members, attempting to turn them against me. They just forwarded the screenshots to our lawyer. And the money, that's where it stung her. The court ordered her to repay 78-0, a combination of the drained inheritance, partial interest, and damages. They gave her a structured repayment plan and placed a lien on her future income. If she ever owns property again, it will be monitored. Any large financial transaction will be flagged. She attempted to claim bankruptcy, but it failed because the debts were tied to a civil judgment based on fraud and abuse. They were non-dischargeable, meaning she was stuck with it. She also had to pay $400-500 in court fees and $11-0 in Doug's legal costs as part of the divorce ruling. On top of that, she owed him reimbursement for the wedding ring and a $9-0 kitchen remodel she'd paid for with my college fund. By the end of it all, she was left with no home, no husband, no reputation, and over $100-0 in debt. Every single bit of it was her own doing. She never tried to contact me again after the Facebook threats. I think she realized there was nothing left to manipulate. Her playbook no longer worked. I heard through Eleanor that she found a job at a call center in the next county, working nights, keeping to herself. Apparently, she dyed her hair and now uses her middle name as if trying to become someone else, someone who didn't do what she did. Typical her. At this point, I used to wonder if she ever thought about that day at the gas station, about what happened to me after she drove away, if she ever felt guilty, even for a second. But mostly, I don't think about her at all anymore. I was finally convinced she was never a mother to me. A few months later, I settled into a small apartment across town. It's not luxurious, but it has real heat, a working fridge, and a lock I control. Joseph helped me land my first job doing light electrical work. Eleanor visits sometimes, bringing board games and snacks like we're kids again. We don't talk about the past much, just normal stuff, movies, her college classes, silly internet videos. It feels good to just be somebody's cousin again. Not a victim, not a case number, just family. I got my name back, I got my footing back, and I didn't forget the one person who took me in when no one else did. Remember Tommy, the guy from the diner who offered me his couch 5 years ago when I had nothing but a trash bag and duct tape shoes? I called him one night, invited him for dinner, told him to show up hungry. He did. I handed him a plate, opened a cold Coke, and just said, "Took me long enough." He shrugged as if it wasn't a big deal, but I could tell he was surprised I remembered him. We sat there eating while some game played on TV that neither of us was watching. He asked what I was up to these days. I told him about the job, the apartment, the settlement. He just nodded and said, "Good for you, man. About time something went your way." Now we hang out more often. He's like the older brother I never had.